Welcome back, another episode. Throughout this season, the drama Masters of the Air on Apple TV Plus has been illustrating how actual events of World War II transpired. Everything in the Tom Hanks and Steven Spielberg executive-produced drama, from the Schweinfurt-Regensburg raid to the appalling conditions at the Stalag Luft III POW camp, has been extremely true. We finally learn the amazing tale of the Tuskegee Airmen, the first black group of pilots to fly for the United States, beginning in Episode 7 and continuing in Episode 8, along with some of the real-life individuals who were a part of the group that helped establish an integrated U.S. Air Force. Any representation of the Second World War must contain this inspirational, true narrative. 3 characters: Ncuti Gatwa as Second LT, Robert Daniels, Brandon Cook as Second LT, Alexander Jefferson, and Josiah Cross as Second LT. Richard Mackin of the 332nd Fighter Group, popularly known as the Red Tails, are thoroughly examined in Masters of the Air. President Franklin Delano Roosevelt approved the creation of an African-American Air Force in 1940, defying the advice of all of his senior generals. The government had already invested in the creation of Tuskegee Army Airfield. Therefore, Tuskegee University, located in Tuskegee, Alabama, was given the contract by the U.S. Army Air Corps to help educate the country's first black military aviators. Black pilots trained there from 1941 until 1946. In addition, the university maintained a very successful civilian pilot training program, and its alumni earned some of the highest scores on flight aptitude tests after they left Tuskegee. Those who met the requirements began training in 1940 and 1941, and after completing their USAF training off the coast of Italy in 1943, they were progressively eased into the flying rotation. Lieutenant Colonel Benjamin Oliver Davis, Jr., assumed command of the squadron, who are Alexander Jefferson, Richard Mackin, and Robert Daniels, the Tuskegee Red Tails. Alexander Jefferson, Richard Mackin, and Robert Daniels are the 3 real-life pilots who are heavily featured in Masters of the Air. They were all regarded as WWII heroes and were second lieutenants. On August 12, 1944, Daniels' single-engine aircraft was shot down, and he was taken prisoner by German forces, until his return to U.S. military control in May 1945. At the end of the war, he was detained as a prisoner of war. During an escort mission to Italian bomb radar stations in Toulon, Mackin, the first black pilot to be taken prisoner in World War II, was shot down. He was struck by enemy flak, turned his plane over, and eventually passed out from the altitude and shock. His parachute opened for whatever reason, and when he awoke an hour later, Nazi soldiers approached him. He was taken out of the field hospital and had his neck braced at Stalag Luft III due to a damaged shoulder and neck that made him faint at abrupt movements. For the remainder of the war, he would be at the camp. Second Lieutenant Alexander Jefferson, who lived to reach 100 years old, was one of the last surviving Tuskegee Airmen. He passed away 2 years ago. He flew Red Tails with the 332nd in WWII. Jefferson completed 18 sorties in which he escorted B-17 and B-24 aircraft on bombing runs over Germany, Romania, and France. In August 1944, during an attack on radar towers, he was shot down in his P-51°C Mustang over Romania, and eventually parachuted to safety in Douaumont, France. Episode 8 of Masters of the Air shows Jefferson, along with fellow Red Tail pilots Daniels and Mackin, being transferred to Stalag Luft III for the duration of the war. The Tuskegee Airmen's legacy. In addition to receiving multiple medals and decorations for their valor in helping the victorious Allied forces during World War II, the Tuskegee Airmen were recognized for their fortitude and bravery in overcoming difficulties and societal injustices in order to enter the cockpit. The full racial integration of the other branches of the military was made possible by the reforms pioneered by the Tuskegee Airmen. You can learn a great deal about the early aviators by taking a visit to the Tuskegee Museum in Detroit, Michigan. For more, subscribe.